every conversation starts with the US and with Trump and with inflation. And that has been the case for years. And then it's like, okay, how about Asia? And then it will kind of cross over to China and possibly to a lesser extent Japan, which had a decent run in its stock market for the first time in like 30 years. China is a very difficult investment case. And then there's Europe, which is kind of this sort of slightly gooey pudding in the middle and never really delivers on its potential. And you have very thoughtful people writing very important reports about how we've got to get more competitive and we've got to fire up our markets and we've got to foster some innovation. And everyone goes, that's nice. Is it time for lunch?
Yeah.
And like,
look at this bottle top.
look at this bottle top. Can we regulate it?
Yeah.
So, but I think that message is getting through now in Brussels, which is, what have we done? We've like painted ourselves into a corner here. We've regulated ourselves out of existence. But again, going back to DeepSeek and Chinese AI, this really is a kind of shot across this narrative that no one else can do what the US has done over the past couple of decades. And this matters, right? You know, one of the things that people always say, particularly in relation to the UK, is that if you have a good idea, and we've got loads of boffins in Oxford and Cambridge with really good ideas, they really know their AI, they really know their biosciences, and it's like world-class science. And that's not just like a Brit bias. Like this, it's well known as being some of the finest stuff out there. They come up with good commercial ideas. They get great backing from venture capital, who are kind of early stage investors, and then from private equity, who are private companies who own them. And when they say, okay, cool, now we need to list on a stock market because we want to get a massive amount of money to really expand and make this a real thing, the British stock market says, sorry, we've kind of loaded up with British American tobacco, so can't really do that. And it's just incredibly annoying. And there are lots of, you know, good faith efforts to put this right, but they are going to take quite a long time to bear fruit. But the reality is right now, when they need those massive chunks of money, they head off to the States.
I see there's a debate with Monzo about listing in America, which is like, you know, a British success story for in terms of like a neobank. And it's a very British company that, and then it's like, the
thing is, the grass isn't always greener. You do get companies that go over to the States or that are already listed in the UK that transfer over to the States, and you are playing with the big boys at that point. And if you mess up once, you have a bad quarter for whatever reason, you will get chewed up, spat out, and no one will invest in you
Whereas
again.
we're a bit nicer over here.
Whereas we're kind of nice.
Yeah, we smoke fags and arrange our little models.
Yeah. Like, okay, they had a bad quarter, but I'm sure they can put it right. Yeah. And you know, so it is a slightly different long-term kind of investment mindset that you get over here. So it's, I do get why companies go overseas. You look at like Arm, for example, which was a kind of, you know, big UK tech success story. It was listed, it wasn't listed. When it relisted, it went over to the States. It does happen a lot, and it creates quite a downbeat narrative around the UK. And that's the other thing that I think people really underestimate in terms of being important for the UK economy. It's vibes. Like, we're very, very, very bad at a nation at like bigging ourselves up and like, you know, celebrating success stories. As soon as someone's got a bit of money, the first thing we want to do is like cut them off at the knees and humiliate them in the national press.
Shame.
Yeah, if you drive a Lamborghini, you're a prick.
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean? Rather than like in America.
But still.
Yeah, they are. They really are. They really are.
But like, you know, so we're bad at that, and we're kind of bad at putting the best foot forward, and we're you know, so there's a lot of that vibe stuff that I have previously honestly discounted as a serious factor in UK economic performance. But you can see that one of the things that's happened since the Labour government got elected and since the budget. So when they were in opposition, like Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer did an absolutely standout job of charming the socks off the city. Like the big investors and the big companies, they were busy mates. It was all going to be great. That relationship has really gone south. And one of the reasons that people talk about in relation to that is that we're not selling a good story about ourselves, and that the government is, you know, appears to be in a hurry to raise taxes. Now, the government got elected to fix public services, and I'm afraid money doesn't come out of the ground, so it's got to come from somewhere. So this is a perfectly valid thing for the government to be doing. But we have got ourselves into a situation where there's a bit of a lack of trust between the two sides, right? Kind of UK PLC, kind of, you know, corporate UK.
Yes, finally. What is a UK PLC or PRC?
PLC.
Oh,
so
I think you said PRC, and I was
that's
like,
not a fair buzzer, man.
it's not. But
Like,
I need to hit it for something.
I just like seeing you jump. Like, you're like,
I just want to make sure you're keep you on your toes.
Yeah, so
no, UK PLC.
UK PLC, right? So this idea of like corporate Britain, there is quite a sort of tetchy relationship between them and the government now. Now, I think some of it is special pleading by companies that just don't want to pay more taxes, frankly. But nonetheless, it is important that, you know, business confidence generates more business confidence, and you need to be just giving companies the sense that they can grow and thrive without getting dinged with higher taxes and with higher, you know, and with tighter regulations.
Controversial take. Do you think we need a Trump in England? Someone who's like a little bit more patriotic and who's like, forget everything, we're putting the UK first, we're going to deregulate, and we're going to invest in our own businesses and put them on the UK stock market? Without all the drama, obviously, just the patriotic.
That's the thing. That's already happening without the bluster, right? So the stock exchange and kind of, you know, big wig, you know, influential people around the city and big investment firms are already working hard on making it easier and more attractive to list stocks in the UK and to bridge that gap between early stage funding and stock markets better. So that is already happening without a kind of big man who claims to have easy solutions to all of these problems. Because that, I think, is what Trump is going to find out over the course of this year, is it's just not as easy as it sounds to keep prices under control, to keep public services running, to do all of the good stuff that you want to do all at once without generating inflation, for example. So I would be very wary of anyone who comes along with easy solutions here, because, you know, the people who I know who have been working on firing up the UK stock market for like years now are good, thoughtful, decent, intelligent people who often are giving up their time. They're not getting paid for this stuff to try and fix the market. And I think we should kind of cut them a bit of slack and let some of these things play out. And again, like, so almost nobody noticed, but FTSE 100, right, the big index of UK stocks, hit a record high the other day. You know, it's had a great run so far this year. So have stocks in Germany. Germany is supposed to be this total basket case, absolutely hopeless, cannot get itself out of the hole of having higher energy costs since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Everyone hates Germany, blah, 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 blah. Oh, look, our stock market's at a record high. And you know, one of the reasons for that is defense. Like, if you're going to invest in anything, investing in European companies that make tanks and bullets makes a whole lot of sense at the moment. And there's a lot of investors gravitating towards that. So there's a company called Rheinmetall, which is like a German company. It makes like bits for tanks and bullets and stuff like that. Not an expert over here. I hit my own not an expert klaxon. But their stocks have done better than Nvidia over the past few years, because one of the things that Trump has done is say to Europe, we're not going to like look after you anymore. You need to really jack up your spending on defence. And that message has got across, and there's a lot of investment by governments in defence now. The other thing that I think, so this is a bit of a tangent, sorry, but the other thing that I think really could go right for Europe this year is, what if we get some sort of deal on Ukraine? What if what if peace breaks out?
The rebuild of Ukraine will be a big opportunity in terms of like there's going to be a lot of money spent rebuilding the place, right?
Yeah, so there's two things, right? There's just, if you just take no one likes a war on your border, right? And it's just unspeakably...
The vibes will be good if it ends.
Yeah, it's unspeakably horrible what's happened over there. And the sooner it stops, the better, albeit no one is trying to push Ukraine into a deal that it doesn't want here. Investors aren't saying, can you just sign on the line and hand it over? That's not how it works at all. But investors are very hopeful that some sort of resolution can be arrived at here. It would be all sorts of difficult to make this stick. And like on your point, Damien, you can't do that reconstruction stuff in just a ceasefire situation. You know, you run a cement company, say, in Poland. There's a massive opportunity for you in rebuilding Ukraine at some point. Are you really going to send your guys in to do the work there when you think they could get bombed, if you don't think the ceasefire will hold? So there's a big reconstruction trade there for European engineering companies, cement companies, all that kind of stuff, but it's not going to happen super quickly. But markets move ahead of reality, right? So the minute you have the chance that there's going to be some sort of deal that might stick, my expectation would be that those stocks would do very well.
I already know traders who are trying to make those plays because they thought Trump, 24 hours, it'll be over.
24 hours?
Yeah.
See, again, turns out it's just not that simple, Donny.
No. That was a clip from our full-length conversation with markets columnist from the FT, Katie Martin. You can watch the full episode right here.
It's lit.